I have a lot of questions about this stuff, and because I always tell people I used to not believe in God, but I was like, you can't not get if you don't believe in God, there's no one to get mad at. So like you gotta believe in somebody. So
Not only that, if you don't believe in God, you can't even enjoy a good sin.
yeah, that's a good that's a good point. That's a good point. All right. Well, we like to welcome to the show Rabbi Manis Friedman. He is a he is an incredible rabbi that we've been dying to talk to for a while, and I'm really hoping to get into his journey. So, welcome to the show, Rabbi.
Thank you for the invite.
No problem. And do you does is that what people say when they greet you? They say Rabbi, correct? Is I may have seen too many movies. I don't even know. um, but yeah. So we wanted to just really get into like your career, how it all came about. How did you decide to become a rabbi, and kind of start with your journey? So please, Rabbi, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. The journey begins from childhood. In our community, every boy is raised to be educated in, in Judaism.
Okay.
If you're educated in Judaism and you can pass a few tests, you become a rabbi.
Okay.
But everybody needs to be educated whether they become a rabbi or not.
So,
So if it really, catches your fancy
mhm.
and you like what you're learning and you want to be a teacher, you pass the test and you become a rabbi.
When does that test happen?
Around the age of 19, 20,
Okay.
when you feel like you're ready.
But not everybody has to pass the test. Not everybody has to take the test, right? Like
Not
it's
everybody has to become a rabbi, right?
right. But it's that well, it was interesting what you said at the beginning. You said it's like Judaism, you kind of alluded to you all are on the path to becoming like it all trains you on the potential of you possibly becoming a rabbi. Is that correct?
Right, but not necessarily with that intention.
Okay.
It's just that everybody needs to know. You
Okay.
need to be informed. So you go through all of those lessons and all of those classes
Mhm.
almost full time until you're 20.
Mhm.
By then, you should know something.
Okay.
So the beautiful thing is that passing the test is a unique and ancient connection.
Okay.
The rabbi who had been ordained, in other words, he passed the test, which was administered by the rabbi before him, all the way back to Moses.
Mm.
So Moses was the first one to ordain rabbis. 70 elders. He ordained them. He proclaimed them. He graduated them, right? But
Right, right.
he gave them their title. They are now able to give that title to the next generation.
Mm.
So it's an unbroken chain.
Oh. That's really
Pretty,
interesting.
yeah.
So you obviously took the test, and then that's only the beginning, right? I'm assuming in like the journey to be a rabbi. So what happens afterwards?
Right. So many people take the test and pass, and then for whatever reason, they never really become a practicing rabbi.
Okay.
They go into business, they start their own business, they go into a profession. So everyone is educated, not everyone takes the test.
Okay.
Those who take the test, not every one of them becomes a rabbi.
Right. Okay.
So you really have to love it to make it your full time career.
Do you need to go to school afterwards to become like a full-fledged rabbi?
You can go up to a more specialized fields, but no, you don't have to.
So you can just start practicing as a rabbi after the test is over.
Right. Right.
So this is fascinating to me. Like how because I'm Catholic, so I have no idea. I have no window into this like culture or what it is or this religion. So you become a rabbi. I know like in Catholicism, you have one priest and like that's the head of the church in your neighborhood. Like what does it look like when you're a rabbi? Are you a collaborative? Are you one? I'm not really sure.
Well, one of the differences is that a rabbi doesn't have any authority other than his knowledge.
Mm.
He can't give you dispensation for sin. He doesn't have that kind of authority. He can teach you, he can inspire you, he can guide you,
Mm.
but you got to do your own connection to God. But let me give a very practical example.
Okay.
You obviously believe in the Ten Commandments.
Right.
As a Catholic, you practice the Ten Commandments. One of the Ten Commandments is honor your father and mother. So I can imagine some guy coming to my office saying, I'm trying to honor my father and my mother, but we don't agree on anything.
Okay.
What am I supposed to do?
Good point.
Like, for example, my mother wants me to marry this girl who she likes very much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to marry her. So if I refuse to marry her, am I violating the commandment?
It's a good question.
And now elections are coming up.
Right.
My parents have a very strong opinion about who I should vote for. I don't agree. Or the other way around. I fell in love with a girl. I want to marry her. My mother says over her dead body.
Ah, I see that you are you interact with this a lot, this topic a lot.
Every day.
So you use your knowledge to guide them into
Yeah.
decisions.
So, in other words, what in the world does honoring parents mean?
Mm.
These are people who want to keep the commandment. They're not sure what that means.
Right.
I have to agree with their politics?
Right.
I have to marry the person of their choice? What does it mean to honor your parents? One more possibility. I'm cramming for a really important test or a job interview, and I
Mm-hmm.
got to get myself ready. And my mother says, take out the garbage. I say, well, I got other things to do. Am I violating the fifth commandment? Yes or no?
Right.
How are you supposed to know?
This is a good question. Not to get too philosophical on you, but now I'm curious. How do you know? Like, what are some of the advice? I think this would give a real window into what you do as a rabbi as well. It's like, what do you do?
So, what is it that we're studying and being tested on and passing the test in order to become a rabbi? We're studying the application of the laws.
Huh.
You can do this with every one of the commandments.
Right.
Thou shalt not murder. Is abortion murder? Come on, these are real questions.
Right. Yeah.
So to say don't murder, okay, fine, but when it comes down to real life, you got to know exactly what that means. Honoring parents is the most complicated one because it's so undefined.
Right.
Okay. The commandment to honor your parents, down to the nitty-gritty. The commandment is do menial tasks for them so that they don't have to do it. That's called honoring.
Mm.
It has nothing to do with who you marry or what your politics are. But if your mother is carrying a suitcase, you carry it for her.
Right.
If there's something they need at the dining room table, don't make them get up for it. You get up and bring the food.
Got it.
Make their life a little easier by doing the menial tasks. And like a servant would serve a king. You don't have to agree with everything he says, but you have to serve him.
Right.
Bring
So
him his
how
food.
so I'm curious, how long have you been a rabbi for?
54 years.
Okay. So, and this seems like a lot, like you said, a lot of what you do is give advice and guide people in order to help them make correct decisions. So, how has that changed over time? Has it changed? Have you like, has your philosophy changed on the commandments, or like your religion as you've grown to be a rabbi? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's a good question. The longer I practice, the longer I talk to people, the more I realize how necessary and how true to life the commandments are.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible keeps getting more and more relevant. Like, for example, you know that one of the commandments, it's not one of the 10, but one of the commandments is that a man is not allowed to wear a woman's garment,
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, I knew that one.
which means even like decoration. A woman back then, those was not allowed to wear a decorative sword
Mm.
because that's a male thing, and a man is not allowed to wear a woman's things. Like part of not shaving is because not having hair on your face is feminine.
Mm.
We
Interesting.
never knew. We never knew how important this commandment is until today, when nobody knows what a woman is.
Right.
Who would have thought that we could get that confused?
I mean, that's the big debate that's happening on. So you help guide with, like, what do you think your philosophy is on those statements as well.
Yeah, and just to point out the relevance and the sensibility of these commandments. You
Right.
know, people always thought it was kind of mystical, spiritual, religious, ritual. It is essential for life. One relevant observation would be when the Industrial Revolution happened and people went from working for a living to having a career.
Mm-hmm.
Big change.
Right.
When they saw it as a career, people actually started to believe that if you find the right career and you're successful, that will give your life meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It can't. You shouldn't expect it. It's the opposite. You have to give your career meaning. The career cannot give you meaning.
We
No
actually
matter,
talk about that a lot on the pod, about talking about, you have to do a lot of self evaluation before you can actually make correct career steps, because you need to actually understand your mindset before you can move forward. So that, like, reflects a lot of what we talk
yeah,
about.
that's true. But if you choose, you can just have a career. Don't expect it to give you contentment in life. Just expect it to make your life more livable. You'll be able to pay your bills. You'll be able to go on vacation. Don't think it's going to give meaning to your life. And then you're fine.
Right.
You still
Y-
don't have meaning to your life, but if you're okay with that, that's fine. But don't get
Right.
frustrated thinking that the career will give you meaning and then be disillusioned when it doesn't.
Mm, that makes a lot of sense.
So here's another fascinating thing. We have commandments, right?
Right.
10 commandments. We have 7 commandments given to Noah. We have 613 commandments given to the Jewish people. We've got commandments,
Right.
right? The underlying purpose for all the universal commandments, the commandments that apply to all human beings, the underlying purpose is God created the world. He would like to see it function. So anything we do that makes life more functional, more livable, more enjoyable is actually serving God's purpose.
Mm,
So beyond the individual commandment, the overall relationship with God is that God is the commander, but he puts us in charge.
Mm.
He says, make the world the kind of a world I could feel comfortable with. So anything we do that makes life on earth better, that's serving God. You're partnering with God in creation. So, of course, if you give a lot of charity, you're doing something really special, making life better for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
if you, let's say, invented the electric toothbrush,
Yeah.
and now people can brush their teeth more effectively,
Yeah.
you're serving God. Don't call it a career, and don't call it secular, and don't call it personal. This is what God created you for, to find ways to make life more livable for the people in your life and for the people all over the world. So anything you do that is useful, you produce a product, or you work in the shipping department of a factory, but you ship out product that is useful to human beings, you are serving God. That is a divine mission. It's not secular, it's not selfish, it's not personal, unless you make it selfish.
That's a great
So,
message.
yeah, so if you
Yeah.
want to get more meaning out of your career, you have to remind yourself this is all God's plan. And if you can improve the conditions of life, you are partnering with God.
I think that's absolutely true. Yeah, no, it's a great way to help you understand like your place in like the world and your career. I think a lot of people do get bogged down on thinking, "Oh, I need my career to have meaning," and then it doesn't give them that meaning. But if they were actually to look at what they produce, like if they work for a medical company and that produces aspirin, like that's good too. So that's a great message to have. Um,
But you see, then you're giving meaning to your career.
right,
You're seeing the godliness of it.
right,
Like every farmer today, the olden days, the farmers fed themselves,
right.
barely. But today, a farmer means you're feeding thousands.
Yeah,
That's God's
absolutely.
mission. A farmer is serving God.
So I'm interested, and this is a little bit to more into, as a rabbi, are there like different tiers of becoming a rabbi? Like I know we're having this great philosophical debate, but I was really understanding like you said you become a rabbi. Is there like because there's like cardinals and Catholicism and there's other things like is there that kind of tiers within the religion?
Not officially,
No.
but eventually, if you really know your stuff, you can become a teacher to the rabbis. And the
Okay.
rabbis will call you for advice, and you become a rabbi to the rabbis.
Hmm.
That doesn't give you a new title, just
Right.
keeps you busier.
I mean, does do you as a rabbi do you have like I know you don't guys don't have the churches but like the synagogues how is that I'm fascinated is because it's not like one big organization like you're under like the Catholic church like what how did you guys operate independently like how does this all work?
Okay, here's a real shocker. It doesn't work that way. We're not under an umbrella
Right.
because Judaism is not a religion. This is really an important. See, the Bible is great. God is absolutely divine.
Right. He's a good guy. Yeah.
But religion, I don't know. It's got some good features, it's got some horrible features.
Right.
So creating religions, I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Judaism was never a religion. So they don't have that superstructure.
Okay.
Like if you belong to this religion, you have to be a member of whatever. No, you're not belonging to a religion. God asks you to do something, and either you're doing it or you're not.
Right.
I don't know why that has to be called religion. Now, religions kind of branched out of Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
So people assumed that Judaism was the earlier religion, but it wasn't. It was not a religion. And one of the distinctions, for all practical purposes, religion is a way of life, a certain belief by which you can raise yourself to a more spiritual, more godly, you get to heaven, right? Religion is to get you to a good place in heaven.
Right.
But that happens after you die, unfortunately.
Right.
You got to die to get there.
Yeah. Bad deal for you.
Yeah, so Judaism was never about going to heaven. Judaism was God needing you to bring him down to earth, not for him to elevate you to heaven. Very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to get to heaven, you got to really be focused on yourself. I got to watch what I do. I got to try really hard. I have to be righteous. I have to be good. I have to, keep my thoughts clean and holy, and my faith has to be strong. It's a full-time job, just being me.
Right.
That's not a good way to live. It leads to narcissism. Me, looking out for me.
Right.
A spiritual me, but still me. Actually, I said to a minister who asked me very, very innocently, he said, "Do you believe in the Savior?" And I said, I'm not looking for God who's going to save me. I'm looking for a God whom I can serve. And he started to cry. He says, I never even thought of that. God serves me? I want to serve him. How can I serve him? Bring him down to earth so that the average person, the average day, the average activity that is practiced and observed by all human beings is comfortable to him, so that he can be on earth and not be stuck in heaven. So God wants to come from heaven to earth, and we want to go from earth to heaven. We're going to pass each other, waiting as we pass. God wants to be down to earth. That's why he gave us the Bible. That's why he gave us the commandments, not to get us to heaven.
Interesting.
These are ways in which we can bring him down to earth.
So it seems it seems like your big role as a rabbi is to teach people and to help not just teach people, it's more like help them do critical thinking for themselves about the best ways for them to serve God and to interpret like their lives. So how did you become so good at it? Like I'm like, do you draw from outside of Judaism? Do you listen to other people from like different realms to talk about the philosophical things? I'm curious about like, who do you read? Who do you listen to?
I try not to, actually.
Okay.
I try not to mix philosophies or beliefs, so that I know that I'm teaching Judaism, not some kind of a hybrid. So I try not to study anything else, but you can't live in a bubble. So of course you hear what other people believe, what other people think, and then you find the common thread. Those things that everyone agrees on, and okay, that is definitely true.
Right.
If it's universal, It's definitely true. So people say, I don't know about God. Everybody's got their own opinion, and this one tells me this, and this one tells me that, and I just gave up. I mean, you know, why did you give up? Well, because so many different opinions. So many different opinions about what? About God. Okay, so there's one thing that everybody agrees on.
Yeah.
There is God. That's universal. So how can you not believe in God? Of course, you're getting a little confused. Like, what exactly did God say at Mount Sinai? Did he say to kill the infidel? No.
Right.
Did
Well,
he
that's
say
great.
did he
Yeah.
say give up earth and come to heaven? No. Yeah, if you read the Bible, it's really, really interesting. The first sentence in the Bible is, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And that's the last time heaven is mentioned.
Right. Yeah.
The rest is about earth.
Right.
So obviously, God created heaven on his way to creating earth, but he's interested in earth, not in heaven.
Mm.
So religion made that huge mistake. The focus on heaven is not good for life on earth.
Interesting. That's a really interesting. You're also very calming to talk to. I have to tell you this, Rabbi. Like I'm talking to you, like man, this guy knows his stuff. It's really great to, it's really great to hear. I have a lot of questions about this stuff, and because I always tell people, I used to not believe in God, but I was like, you can't not get, if you don't believe in God, there's no one to get mad at. So like, you gotta believe in somebody. So
Not only that, if you don't believe in God, you can't even enjoy a good sin.
yeah, that's a that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, it's so. Do you ever? Will you ever stop being a rabbi? Like, is it? Do you retire? Are there? I don't know, like how that all looks. Like you've been doing it for 50 years. Is like what does that look like in the long run?
I think when people stop listening to you, you are retired.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It yeah, it's just such a fascinating thing. So when you just to like, I guess for my last wrap up question here is like, what do you say to people who are maybe interested in becoming like a part of Judaism? I know I've never really like had that kind of talk, or what does that look like when you are talking to somebody and they're like, I'm interested to becoming to getting into Judaism, like how can I do that, how can I start? So
There are rare individuals
right.
who actually will convert to Judaism.
Yeah.
But most people don't want to convert, they just want the wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
they want the clarity. Like, what is God looking for? What can I do for him? Without becoming Jewish,
Right.
because God never meant for everyone to be Jewish. So that's not an objective, that's not a goal. But I have I don't know 1,000 hours on YouTube.
Okay.
Most of the viewers are not Jewish. The steady viewers,
Right.
people from every country, from every religion, from every background, people want to know from an authentic source, what did happen at Sinai? What did God say? What is God's plan? What is he looking for? What can I do for him? And that is such a positive development. Not what can he do for me? What can I do for him? Boy, if everybody woke up in the morning thinking, what can I do for God? We would have a pretty nice world. Just from that one thought.
You're
But
not
when
wrong.
everybody is out to get to heaven, and I want to get there before you because I want to grab a good seat, that doesn't bring harmony to the world. So getting to heaven should really not really be a goal. if the expression when somebody dies and people say, "Oh, he's in a better place now," watch it. There's a better place than this.
Yeah.
That's not good news. If there's a better place than this, why should I work so hard at making this better? You undermine the whole purpose of being here. In
That's
fact,
a great point. Yeah.
if you really believe that there's a better place than this, you're a potential terrorist.
Right.
That's not a good way to think. There is no better place than this. Heaven is more comfortable, easier, safer. There'll be no pain. There'll be no. I don't know if that's better. Because in heaven, you can't serve God. God wants us to fix this world, earth. When you're in heaven, you're not fixing this world. So it's like, from a Jewish perspective, heaven is like a 5-star retirement home. They take very good care of you. They give you a gold watch, but you're not making any contribution anymore. So I think that would be really nice for about a month.
Right.
But eventually he's like, come on, let me go back to work. Let me do something for God. So we really should celebrate being on earth and try to accomplish as much as we can, because eventually we won't be able to. We'll just be sitting in heaven. And that's a bit of a letdown, anticlimax. It's not like, oh, you get to heaven and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
No, earth is fantastic.
That's a good point.
Heaven is really nice.
Well, that's a great way. I think that's a great sentiment to end on. And like you said, if we want to hear more from you, I believe we can go into YouTube. We'll put it in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming on, Rabbi. This has been fascinating, and I loved every second of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem.
If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal. It's questions and answers. It's conversation. It's really relaxed. It's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program. There's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us. Take a look. Click the link below and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.